The movie begins with two school buses driving side by side on the road full of students heading out on a trip. Everyone was cheerful, laughing, and playfully hitting each other with pillows. The weather was sunny and calm. Among them was a girl named Mitsuko, quietly writing a poem in her notebook. Two girls sitting nearby mocked her for writing instead of playing like everyone else. They snatched the notebook from her, and her pen fell to the floor. Mitsuko bent down to pick it up. Right at that moment, a violent windstorm suddenly struck the buses. The storm split both buses in half, and it also seemed to split the students' bodies and minds apart. Mitsuko was the only survivor simply because she had been bent down. When she stood up, she saw the bus roof torn away, and her classmates, their bodies sliced in half. She froze in horror at the sight. Seconds later, another gust of deadly wind roared toward her, but this time she sensed it coming, crouched quickly, and survived again. The storm tore down electric poles and cables, and when the bus finally stopped, Mitsuko climbed out and ran down the road. She soon saw the other bus, its students' bodies scattered on the ground, dismembered and bloody. Screaming, Mitsuko kept running, terrified and disoriented. As the storm drew closer again ahead, she spotted four girls walking on the road. She grabbed one of them and pulled her to the ground just as the storm hit. The other three were instantly killed. Mitsuko had managed to save herself and that one girl, but only moments later, the girl died while trying to help a few boys riding bicycles who were caught by the wind. Mitsuko was once again alone. She ran as fast as she could until she reached a river. There she saw more bodies, students floating in the water. She washed her face in the river, changed into cleaner clothes instead of her blood-stained uniform, and continued walking down the road aimlessly. After hours of walking, she arrived at a girls' school. Strangely, the school uniform there looked exactly like the one she was wearing. Even more bizarre, everyone seemed to know her. Still in shock, Mitsuko said nothing about the strange wind that had killed everyone earlier. Then her friend Aki appeared, smiling and saying, "Come on, let's go inside." Mitsuko was confused. She couldn't understand how she and Aki were suddenly in the same school again. Aki looked at her with concern. "Why are you shaking? We've always been classmates here." Mitsuko quickly ducked when she felt a breeze pass by, but this time it was just normal wind. Nothing happened. Aki sighed. "You're acting weird today." They kept walking toward class while Mitsuko struggled to make sense of everything that was happening. Later, another gust of wind passed by, and Mitsuko panicked again, running off in fear. Aki chased her, trying to calm her down, saying, "There's nothing to worry about." Finally, Mitsuko started to relax. Even the teachers acted like Mitsuko had always been a student there. When she was alone with Aki, she asked, "Am I really a student here?" Aki replied, "Of course you are." Mitsuko started to think maybe what she saw that morning had just been a dream or a hallucination. She told Aki about the deadly wind that killed her classmates. Trembling as she spoke, Aki gently opened the window and said, "Look, the wind outside is just normal air. It can't hurt you." She told Mitsuko to stretch out her hand. Mitsuko did, and when she felt the calm breeze, she began to believe her. The two looked at each other and laughed awkwardly, realizing how strange the situation was. Aki then said softly, "Maybe you've got memory loss. That's why you don't remember this school." Later, they met up with some of their friends. Everyone laughed and joked together, skipping the rest of their classes that day. They went out into the forest, laughing and playing around. Mitsuko felt genuinely happy again, completely opposite of the fear she'd felt earlier. She convinced herself that what she saw in the morning had just been a nightmare. They reached a lake, catching their breath. Aki told the others about Mitsuko's strange dream of the deadly wind, but one of the girls, Ri, interrupted. She said, "What if it really happened? Maybe Mitsuko was in a parallel world. I read there are many parallel universes." The others laughed it off, thinking she was joking. Soon after, they found a pillow on the ground and started playing with it, tossing it around. Mitsuko noticed two girls standing nearby. She looked at them and smiled, but suddenly they vanished into thin air. Then Ri said to Mitsuko, "If you want to change reality, you have to do something unexpected, something out of the ordinary." Mitsuko thought deeply about those words. Later, she and Aki returned to the school and went into their classroom. Mitsuko noticed another pillow on the floor, picked it up, and threw it playfully at Aki. But in that instant, the teacher pulled out a machine gun and opened fire on the students, killing all the girls in the classroom, including Aki. Mitsuko was the only survivor once again, as the teacher pointed the gun at her, saying, "Pray before you die, you skipped class." Two girls suddenly appeared out of nowhere, rescued Mitsuko, and escaped with her. They passed by a classroom where all the girls inside had been killed, so they hid in that same room. But then another teacher came in and shot one of the surviving students. One girl tried to fight back, but was killed instantly. Her struggle ended right there. Ri grabbed Mitsuko, trying to help her escape, but Rei was shot and fell to the ground. With her last breath, she told Mitsuko, "Run! Try to escape before they reach you." Mitsuko ran together with the few surviving students while the teachers shot at them through the classroom windows, killing any student who had skipped class. They didn't want to let a single girl escape. 5 girls managed to make it out of the school. One of them turned to Mitsuko and said, "You have to think and do something. This whole thing is in your hands." Mitsuko didn't understand what she meant. Suddenly, the wind returned again and swept through them, killing all the girls except Mitsuko. Once again, she was left completely alone. The deadly wind chased her relentlessly. Mitsuko ran for a long distance until she reached the city. She continued running through the crowded streets, but strangely, everyone she saw was a woman. She stopped when she saw a police station sign and ran inside for help. Inside, she met a female police officer. The officer thought Mitsuko was crazy because she refused to speak or explain why she was crying. Breathless and trembling, Mitsuko tried to point toward the direction of the wind. The officer looked at her strangely and suddenly called her by a different name, Ko. She asked, "Why are you wearing a school uniform?" Mitsuko turned toward a mirror and was shocked. Her reflection looked completely different. It turned out that the officer's name was Tomo, and she was actually Ko's friend. Tomo smiled and said, "You should be happy. Your wedding is in a few hours." Mitsuko, or rather Ko now, was completely confused, still in shock, unable to think or speak. She just let Tomo do whatever she wanted. Tomo helped her into a car, saying they were going to the church for her wedding. Up to this point, Mitsuko had been through one bizarre experience after another, but this was the strangest of all. Along the way, women on the streets waved and greeted her happily. They all treated her as if she were a celebrity, congratulating her on her wedding. When they arrived at the church, a large crowd of women surrounded her to bless her and celebrate. Inside, she entered a room to change clothes and froze in shock when she saw Aki standing there. She couldn't believe her eyes. "What's going on?" Mitsuko asked, panicking. Aki whispered softly, "I know what you're thinking. Lower your voice. Calm down. I'll explain everything later." Outside, the other women were gossiping about how handsome the groom was. Then they brought in the wedding dress for Ko to wear. Aki asked all the girls to leave the room, saying Ko was still nervous. Once they were alone, Aki called her by her real name, Mitsuko, and said, "You have to do exactly what I tell you. Stay calm. Don't panic. I can't explain everything now because they're watching us." Mitsuko trusted Aki completely and let her help. Aki helped her put on the wedding dress, making sure everything looked perfect. When Mitsuko was ready, a few girls came in to take her to the ceremony, but suddenly Aki attacked them, killing them all. She wanted to teach Mitsuko how to fight. She handed Mitsuko a broken glass bottle and told her, "Use this to attack anyone who makes you feel unsafe." Mitsuko nodded and moved toward the altar, holding the glass bottle instead of a bouquet. The wedding guests, all women, clapped and cheered for her. Then came the shocking moment. In front of everyone stood a coffin instead of a groom. When it opened, inside was the corpse of Kiko's supposed husband. His face was that of a pig. The guests suddenly began acting strangely, mocking Mitsuko, laughing and pushing her toward the coffin. As they tried to make her kiss the corpse, Mitsuko screamed and stabbed him with the glass, then turned on the others, killing some of the women around her in a frenzy of panic and rage. Aki appeared again, trying to calm her down. But then the two teachers from the school suddenly showed up. Mitsuko and Aki fought them together, and after a brutal fight, they managed to defeat them. They ran out of the church, escaping into the open. Aki stayed behind to distract the teachers while Mitsuko ran ahead. Then a girl wearing sports clothes appeared and stopped Mitsuko. She called her by yet another new name, Izumi, and told her to come join the marathon. Mitsuko turned to a mirror nearby and was stunned again. Her reflection had changed once more. She now looked completely different and was dressed in athletic gear. Her name was now Izumi, a famous runner everyone adored. Crowds of cheering people surrounded her, shouting her name. Izumi ran alongside her fellow runners. One of them smiled and said, "You've always been fast, even back in school." I didn't understand what they were talking about, but she didn't ask. She didn't want to know anymore. She simply remembered herself as a little girl, running freely, and decided to just enjoy the run and keep going. She saw her classmates from school running beside her during the marathon, but suddenly, the pig-faced man and the teachers appeared chasing after her. The girls running alongside Ayumi shouted to her, "Be brave, you're the only one who can escape this world." Izumi ran off the track, pushing herself with every bit of strength she had until she found herself deep in the woods, standing before a dark cave. Inside, a strange girl spotted her, took her by the hand, and led her into the cave where several other girls were gathered. They all looked terrifying. They resembled Izumi, but their hair covered their faces, their presence unsettling. They all looked terrifying. They resembled Izumi, but their hair covered their faces, their presence unsettling. The girl who brought her there said coldly, "If you don't die, all of us will die." She suddenly attacked Izumi, trying to kill her, but just in time, Aki appeared and saved her friend. Aki told Izumi urgently, "Repeat after me. Keep saying this sentence no matter what. I am Mitsuko." Yumi, trembling and confused, began to repeat, "I am Mitsuko. I am Mitsuko," over and over again. Slowly, her voice grew stronger until finally her body transformed back into her original form. She was Mitsuko again. Mitsuko looked at Aki and said, "Please explain everything." Aki sighed deeply and said, "We're not in a real world, Mitsuko. This place is all an illusion, a fabricated reality. You're the main character here, and if you want to escape this world, you have to pull out these 2 wires from my wrists and kill me." She continued softly, "That's the only way. If you do it, I'll die."